And the bigger issue is the epic battle that we're actually fighting, which is the battle for our freedom. Now, put Trump aside for a minute, and I want you to listen to what I'm about to read to you. On January 10th, 1963, Congressman Albert S. Herlong, Jr. of Florida read a list of 45 communist goals into the Congressional record. And this list was derived from researcher Cleon Skousen's book, The Naked Communists. If you want insights into the thinking and strategies of our so-called liberal elite, meaning the media, the government, academia, I want you to listen to these communist goals that were read into the Congressional record in 1963 and tell me if you think any of these explain to you what is going on today. We'll eliminate the first few about disarmament and atomic war because it's a little off the point. Let's go to number 4. Permit free trade between all nations, regardless of communist affiliation and regardless of whether or not items could be used for war. 5. Well, that has to do with Russia and the Soviet satellites. I'll say more about that later. Right now, Schiff and Pelosi want war with Russia because it's good for business. 6. Provide American aid to all nations regardless of communist domination. 7. Grant recognition of Red China and admission of Red China into the UN. You can thank Nixon for that. And not only did President Jimmy Carter fulfill this goal, but he also betrayed America's allies in Nicaragua, El Salvador, Iran, Afghanistan, Angola, and elsewhere. Prolong, again, atomic tests, we'll eliminate that. Number 10, allow all Soviet satellites individual representation in the UN. That happened. 11, promote the UN as the only hope for mankind. If its charter is rewritten, demand that it be set up as a one-world government with its own independent armed forces. Well, that's happened. There are still American intellectuals and members of Congress who dream of an eventual one-world government and who view the United Nations, founded by communists such as Alger Hiss, the first Secretary General, as the instrument to bring about one-world government. By the way, world government was also the dream of Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin. World government was the dream of Osama bin Laden and the 9/11 hijackers. And now it's the dream of the Democrat Party. 12, resist any attempt to outlaw the Communist Party. 13, do away with loyalty oaths. Do away with loyalty oaths. I remember when I was a young teacher in the 60s, I had to swear a loyalty oath, and then it was eliminated. I didn't understand why. I had no idea why it was eliminated. Well, now I know why. 15, pay close attention. Capture one or both of the political parties in the U.S. Do you realize that the Communist Party of USA, the CPUSA, and its goals are almost identical with that of Nancy Pelosi's Communist Democrat Party of today? 16, use technical decisions of the courts to weaken basic American institutions by claiming their activities violate civil rights. That's the race war we're going through right now. Every time they want to overturn our Constitution, they attack our civil rights. They say it's a civil rights attack. And that goes back to the founding of the ACLU by Fabian socialists Roger Baldwin and John Dewey, and communists William Foster and Elizabeth Gurley Flynn. The ACLU is the legal arm of the Communist Party USA and, of course, in my opinion, the worldwide communist movement. 17, get control of the schools. Get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism and communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of teachers' associations. Put the party line in textbooks. 18, gain control of all student newspapers. 19, use riots to foment public protests against programs or organizations. 20, infiltrate the press. Get control of book review assignments, editorial writing, policymaking positions. 21, gain key control of positions in radio, TV, and motion pictures. 22, continue discrediting American culture by degrading all forms of artistic expression. I'll read that again. Continue discrediting American culture by degrading all form of artistic expression. An American communist cell was told to eliminate all good sculpture from parks and buildings and substitute shapeless, awkward, and meaningless forms. 23, control art critics and directors of art museums. Quote, our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless art. 24. Now pay close attention to this, those of you who are anti-pornography. Eliminate all laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship and a violation of free speech and free press. Let me read that again. As we all know, there's a pornography epidemic in America. It has destroyed the family. It's destroyed the mind of tens of millions of people in this country and abroad. Anytime you attack pornography, you are told you're attacking, you're into censorship. You're violating their free speech. Let me tell you something. The First Amendment was not written to protect pornography. 25, break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV. 26, present degeneracy and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. In this article, it is stated that this is the Gramscian agenda of the long march through the institutions, spelled out explicitly as follows: the gradual takeover of the means of communication, and then using those vehicles to debauch the culture and weaken the will of the individual to resist. How many people in the media today have the knowledge or the courage to advocate anything to do with family values or public morality? And what happens to any of us in the media who ever talk about family values? Tell us what happens. Remember family values under Nancy Reagan? Tell us what happens the minute you say family values. You are called a bigot and you're viciously attacked. 27, infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. Discredit the Bible and emphasize the need for intellectual maturity, which does not need a, quote, religious crutch. Now, you know this has largely been accomplished through the communist infiltration of the National Council of Churches, Conservative and Reform Judaism, and the Catholic seminaries. No one can argue with that. These organizations, the Reform Judaism, the Council of Churches, and such, these Reformed churches fundamentally have eschewed God and religion. Did you know that? 28, eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in the schools on the false grounds that it violates the principle of separation of church and state. Discredit the American Constitution by calling it inadequate, old-fashioned, out of step with modern needs, a hindrance to cooperation between nations on a worldwide basis. Replace our nation of laws, not men, with royal decree emanating from appointed judges and executive orders. Replace elected officials with bureaucrats. Discredit the American founding fathers. Present them as selfish aristocrats who had no concern for the common man. When I come back, I will continue discussing with you the 45 communist goals as read into the Congressional record in 1963 and what it has to do with Mr. Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and the attempt of a coup in the United States of America.
Savage.